Hello and welcome to Bag and Boarded. My name's Mike and this is my wife Tabitha.
Hi. So we're married. We don't have any kids, so we have plenty of time to talk about frivolous things. One of those things is comics.
And today, this being the first video that we're putting on the channel, we wanted to talk about our first comic book. The comic book that helped us fall in love with the medium. And this is going to be a recurring guest star, Roxy.
One of our two fur babies.
Yes.
Fur babies.
Because I always felt that knowing kind of where you started in something, whether it be film or television or something, is really kind of important if you can if it's something that made you grab onto it. And I know my very first comic I can remember is something that stuck with me, and I know it's a little hazy on hers, but for me I actually do kind of remember. But that's beside the point. My first comic is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, so being a boy I was a massive Turtle fan. I think we all were, unless you wanted to be uncool.
I was uncool then.
Well, you weren't a boy. So that I got into comics with Turtles, and it just kind of exploded from there. And my wife's first comic,
Little Archies. So I liked the Little Archie story. It was a story based on a bunch of kids who were friends. It was very similar to Our Gang, which was one of my other favorite, was another show that I really like to watch.
How do you call it Our Gang and not Little Rascals?
Okay, Little Rascals. This will be edited.
Or I'll keep that in.
The Little Rascals. And I just like all the characters. My favorite character was Betty. She was the girl that everyone liked. I did like the fact that she was always throwing herself after Archie, because I thought she could do better throughout her whole life. But everyone has their own choices.
Quirks.
But I just felt that was a little bit overplayed. But I loved her. I loved Betty. She was smart. She was beautiful. She was well known, well liked, and she had a good heart.
First comic book character I really enjoyed probably is going to be Leonardo. It's kind of a selfish type reason. But it's something that kept with me. I'm the oldest of 4 at the time when I started reading this. I was the oldest of 3. So I liked Michelangelo because he had my name, and I wanted to kind of be the casual carefree guy, but I always ended up being the leader character when we went out and played Turtles in the yard. So I ended up being Leo because I had to be the person who bossed everybody around, and I really started to appreciate those characters as I got older. It's true.
Yeah, yeah.
And I liked Leo because, one, outside of Mikey, I liked Mikey because I liked nunchucks. I grew up on Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris movies, probably way too early. So I liked martial arts in that sense, and Turtles and ninjas just worked weirdly. I don't know why. It's the 80s.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that aspect of just having a character I could relate to that was in charge of people, still was kind of immature, but it felt a sense of responsibility.
Quick disclaimer. So I'm the one, I just like the storylines. I'm not going to get into the detail of their history or character development or the artist or the illustrator or how the writers have changed through the years. Michael definitely will. So
she is here to help keep me from rambling.
Right. And I just love stories. I love a good story. And yes, to keep you from rambling, because he can ramble for quite some time.
I can. I'll openly admit this.
But back to my first comic, Little Archie. So I remember I lived in the South. We had Rite Aid stores, and I could always get my comics from Rite Aid's drugstore. Those are familiar with it, drugstore chain. Mm-hmm. And at the front of the cash register, they always have this wire type display.
Oh yeah.
Rotary
the
thing.
Old school rotary.
Yeah, and they were the comics, single issue. They were really cheap. My parents approved of me getting them. They weren't violent or inappropriate, and it was just a good story. So I didn't get them all the time, but enough for me to follow the characters.
I didn't get my comics all the time because I had to pay for my own comics.
I didn't even know there was a comic schedule until I married you. So I just figured these appeared magically. I didn't know they actually came out a certain day every day of the week. Or did they back then?
Yeah.
Was it a comic schedule back then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I Yeah, it was still Wednesday because it was Friday. I'm not going to go down that route.
Alright.
I got into Turtles because back when I was a kid, comics were still in convenience stores and drugstores. But Archie published the Turtle comic that I read, so and Archie is the king even to this day. I pretty much of making sure that they have some form of a comic in a store somewhere, even if it's just a digest reprint.
Yeah, they still run.
So Turtles were everywhere. I remember my first issue was issue 5, and I don't know if I ever got issue 6, but I got issue 7 because they kind of didn't have this. Weren't guaranteed to get books in order. And I remember 7 because it had a floating cow head, and the turtles got taken by the cow head that traveled time and space. It was a total TARDIS ripoff. That I had no clue what it was. The cow's head was named Cuddly the Cowlick. It put things in its mouth and it traveled through time and space, and it kidnapped the turtles so they could be on an intergalactic professional wrestling show.
Is that some type of like subtle campaign to get kids to drink more milk or something? Or?
I have no idea. Cuddly, I think his latest appearance was in the 2012 animated series, but he's kind of this weird fan favorite. Like he has like a little collar. He literally is just a floating cow head.
Did it have a bell?
No. No bell. His first issue.
Floating cow head. Wow.
I know. We talk about the floating cow head, but they were taken to an intergalactic wrestling promotion on an asteroid run by a talking tree and a talking leaf that grew money off his top of his head. Name Stump and Sling.
Wow.
And comics can be very weird.
My favorite time to read comics, especially the Archies, is when I was sick. I know that sounds weird, but I remember like when I was a kid.
You were a good student.
And having like my whole bed like cluttered with single issue comics. I just like to read them, just kind of being immersed in comics. Again, because I love the story. I just love to read good stories.
My favorite time to read comics was any time I could get away with reading a comic book.
Okay, yeah.
Like I started with Turtles, and I loved it because I was watching the animated series at the time. And fun disclaimer, the Turtles that everybody knows and loves, and I'm sure any hardcore comic fan will tell you this, are very sanitized versions of the Ninja Turtles. When I talk about Leo kind of being immature, in the comics he was just kind of mean. The very first issue of Turtles is very bloody and not very kid friendly at all. I think that's why it only got sold in a comic convention.
Yeah, not very child friendly.
It's not really a spoiler because Shredder continues, but in the very first issue it was supposed to be a one-off, and Leo straight up shoves his sword through Shredder. Like right in the chest, just straight up impales Shredder.
Oh, that's a great bedtime story.
Oh yeah, like the turtles are all cut up and bleeding. And Leo just grabs him and finally just shoves it into him. And I'm just, when I first read that after years of sanitized Ninja Turtles, I was like, how? And that is the magic of toy sales.
Well, there is nothing like that I can recall in Little Archies.
No, not in Little Archies.
Not Little Archies, yeah.
That's not till the 2010s where you guys decided to branch off into zombies.
Right. Yeah.
And bad Netflix TV shows.
Yeah.
Worshipping the devil. But no, as she said, I will be the one who talks about it. My love for this series, even as I go back to it as an adult, is still very much there. It's it's something that got me into it. I realize now it's very hammy with ecological awareness, animal rights. The writer of this actually got thrown off the book after like 65 issues because Archie couldn't take him not making the Shredder the main villain anymore.
Oh, okay.
Even though never mind, I won't go that route. He made the devil the main villain named Null, who was trying to
change the storyline off.
Completely.
Okay.
He created a ton of characters. One of the characters was Raphael's girlfriend, who was a samurai fox.
Over here.
They actually own the rights for her, so she's been copied but never actually shown up in any other Turtles media. But he was very much, he was pro Captain Planet before I think Captain Planet existed.
Right.
It can be really, really in your face, but I still love it.
Another disclaimer. So, as you see, my husband has quite an extensive collection of comics. So he marries someone who will help him indulge in his hobby.
And tell me when I can't indulge.
Yeah, and
which is very important in life.
Balance.
Very important in life.
But we both love comics. You know, I think we have different perspective. You know,
oh yeah,
you.
Definitely.
And also, one thing that I like about comics, when I grew up, you know, we grew up really broke, didn't have any money. My parents didn't, and so a lot of times I would kind of have some escapism, you know, reading these comics and just kind of dreaming of a different type of life, just to have a different, you know,
type of environment.
Yeah, different view of things.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat, and I can't tell you how many times I wanted to actually break into a sewer to see if there were turtles down there, even if I wasn't in New York.
Just that imagination.
But
imagination.
It really helped foster my imagination. I moved from turtles to superheroes, and now I'm into crime fiction. But like, I think that's the enjoy of this series.
Yeah, we were so broke. We didn't even have a television, so
I had TV.
A working television, and so comics were just like, oh, cool. Just really got immersed in these stories, you know. So, you know, give a little bit of
I've
joy.
been that broke,
Yeah.
but I was not at the time.
Yeah.
I had an extensive toy collection.
Yeah.
I mowed lawns and peddled for turtle figurines and turtle comics. And then I discovered X-Men.
Okay. So thanks for listening to our first video on our channel, Bag and Boarded. We're going to give you guys more videos about more deeper topics of comics and how we relate them for us with mental health and illness and characters who don't seem to age or don't age, and kind of talk about that a little bit. Manga, I know you want to talk about some manga.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I love comics as a medium. I don't differentiate American comics and manga as different art forms. I think it's all comics. So, as to deeper dwellings, definitely, but not just deep topics. We'll do
also fun stuff too, about how to start your comics on a budget, and you know how to get into reading comics, and how to decipher what you like. You know, based on your interests.
Yeah, there is no wrong way to read a comic.
There's no wrong way to read a comic.
I think
unless it's manga and you try to read it from front to back instead of back to front. There is a wrong way to read manga. Which I found out the hard way. So
and then after she did that, I gave her an early American manga which was superimposed, so it read normally for English speakers, and she read it backwards again. One of the first things I want to talk. A later video would probably be your first experience in a comic book shop.
Yeah.
First experience at a con.
Book shop. Yeah, and definitely a convention. Yeah.
But otherwise than that, down below, we'd love to see if anybody wanted to talk about their first comic book, that if they remembered a comic book that helped them really like comic books, or something, or if they want any help directing to a comic book they might like. It is widely varied. It is a medium that is just like television. Every genre is there.
Yeah, and if you could grace us by subscribing to our channel, and also turning on your notifications bell so you can see when we put up a new video. And please, please post a comment below. Tell us what your first comic was, why you like comics, what comics you hate, and some other cool stuff.
Alright. Yeah. This has been Bag and Boarded. I'm Mike.
See you next time. I'm Tabitha.
Bye.
I'm Tabitha. See you next time.